Hey Bible lovers, I'm Tim Nichols and I'm here to bring you your Nichols Worth, and this is literally a brand new release from Thomas Nelson Bibles called the Peace of God Bible. This is compiled by Jeremiah Johnston and really has some great resources in it. Look, we live in a world that is in chaos. And sometimes it is very difficult to find peace in the midst of political turmoil and riots and protests and people that are upset over this and government shutdowns and so many wild things going on in our world. Plus we have so many different denominations that believe this and believe that, and we have televangelists and all sorts of things going on that keep us confused and can keep us in chaos. But this Bible here is designed to focus on peace. And I thought it was really cool. And I thought it was something that you definitely needed to take a look at. But first things first, you know me, I do not like dust jackets on hardbacks. So I decided to take the dust jacket off, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that the Bible looks exactly the same without this annoying dust jacket. So hardbacks are what they are. This is a paper overboard. It does have a really nice design. I actually prefer a cloth overboard when I'm doing a hardback, but I also don't mind a good picture image. It does only have a single ribbon, but it is a double-sided ribbon. And I think the reason they didn't go with more ribbons on this one is because this Bible is more devotional in quality. This isn't a study Bible where you're going to want to save your space in several spots. This is a Bible you're just going to kind of read through devotionally, and it has some really cool features that we're going to dive into. But let's go ahead and take a look at a few other things. First of all, the liner. If the cover is paper, then the liner is going to be paper. They tend to bust right here over time when you use them a lot. So when you get a hardback like this, it is going to bust over time if you use it a lot. But the good news is they do have some leather soft and some more high quality options if you want to dive into that. But I just wanted to go ahead and look at a good old hardback because sometimes you just can't beat that. Also, it has white headbands and tailbands. This is a sewn binding, as is all of Thomas Nelson's Bibles as of today. But a paper liner, so it's going to have two weak points right here and right here. So if you use it a lot, that is eventually going to break. But the good news about hardbacks is they are very inexpensive. One thing I love about a hardback, it is not difficult at all to get them to lay flat. So this is the Peace of God Bible. And you can see Jeremiah Johnston, PhD. He's on staff at a church and he does all kinds of cool stuff, works in apologetics. And then you can see this was printed in India. So that's one smart move by Thomas Nelson. I don't know if the other ones are printed in India as well, but I do know that the India Bibles tend to be lower quality. So that's something to keep in mind. But on a hardback, it doesn't matter at all. This is obviously a first edition because this is the first time this Bible's come out, and it was released in 2025. And then it has the preface to the New King James. And you can see this paper is a little bit thin. And then it has something I thought was pretty cool: how to use the Peace of God Bible. And it gives you devotions, articles, study themes, peace notes, book introductions, which we'll take a look at. But this little article was actually written by my friend, Philip Nation, the publisher at Thomas Nelson. So I thought that was really cool. You go, 1L. Good job on the introduction to the Peace of God Bible. Really helpful information. And then it starts off with, it says it has articles in the front. So here's the articles. We have the Peace of God, find it and keep it. Then we have Paul's peace plan, discipline your thoughts, maintain peace. There's not a bunch of articles. And there's one, believers can recover the peace of God, find God and his peace. And then we go into the Old Testament and it has a specific introduction that's not your standard Thomas Nelson introductions, that gives you the time, the key verse in the Bible, who wrote it, and then what about it is themed toward peace. Once you get into the Bible itself, you're going to have some peace notes that tie in with some verses. For example, this one said, God made us in his image with emotions, but our emotions can deceive us. Our feelings do not confirm truth and often contradicts God's promises in our lives. And then it notes that we are made in God's image and likeness. Then sporadically placed throughout the text, there are 365 devotions. So you could do a devotion per day. Now they're not evenly spread out. So in other words, it's not like you have one day of reading planned in a devotion. Instead, they decided to theme them according to verses where they think peace should be highlighted. It's got your cross references and textual footnotes on the bottom. This is a 9.5 point font. It is line matched, which is good because this paper, this isn't the best paper that I've seen in a Bible, but it's not bad at all. I would guess this to probably be By feel, I'm going to say lower 30s GSM, probably 30 to 33. And you can see these devotions can be anywhere placed throughout the text. And in the beginning, there's a bunch of them. But again, there are 365. And then sometimes there's a space where there's several pages where you won't have one. And then you'll see another one. Of course, when you get to the poetic settings, you're going to see that beautiful New King James poetry where it has that centered-ish justified text. We have another article, peace notes spread throughout. So if you're going to use this devotionally to read in a year, I'll give you a way to do that in a minute. But ultimately, I love these blue accents. It's got blue chapter numbers, blue subheadings, and look, that's a beautiful little font. I think that font is just designed to kind of be elegant and peaceful. It's just soothing. Let's just say that. But I love the blue accents. I love that Thomas Nelson is all in on the blue accents. So many Bibles go with red accents, and they are nice. I like them. But I love they've dove into these full-on blue accents, just beautiful Bible, gorgeous layout. It could stand to have a little bit better paper, but from a build standpoint on a hardback Bible, you can't beat this. And then when you get to the New Testament, the words of Christ are going to be in red. Now, one thing I wish they would have done is go ahead and lean into that blue, because they do this beautiful blue letter and go ahead and do the words of Christ in blue. I understand why they didn't, because it could probably appear to be overkill in blue. Those are some really good dark red letters, so they're not hurting anything by being there. And if you are one that prefers red letters, then this is definitely something you're going to like. Once you get past the Bible itself and you get past the book of Revelation, there's a few little tools in the back that you might find useful, and this is how I would use this if you want to use this in a one-year Bible reading plan. So let's get to the end, and then we have a topical index of devotions. Now, this isn't exhaustive. This is really cool. So this is that theme index they were talking about. So each theme, peace with God, peace when you're tempted, being a person of peace, having peace as a family, and different themes and topics of peace all the way through. And this gives you a short list of those devotions and where they are, what text they're associated with. But really, I think if you want to do this in a year, the best way to do this is to just look at all 365 of them using the features index. It shows you where all the devotions are in Genesis, Exodus, and beyond. So every single devotion is laid out here. There are 365 of them, so you can go back to here and you can do one a day. And then you can go ahead and do your normal one-year reading plan or whatever reading plan you prefer. But you can see there are several pages of these devotions all the way through, and then it has, of course, the concordance that's standard with your New King James Bible. It gives you the reference and where it takes place in the Bible. So that's always nice to have, and this one's a fairly robust one. And then when you get past all of that, you're going to have your Thomas Nelson and Zondervan maps. So look, we live in a world where peace is hard to find. But peace is all throughout the Bible because God is the God of shalom. He's the God of peace. So I hope that if you're struggling to find peace, this Bible can be a blessing to you. God bless you. Keep calm. Jesus on. This is your Nicholsworth.